So the world is rapidly changing. Now you add AI into that. I read today that almost a third of the people asked to use AI are sabotaging the AI efforts, and that young people are doing more sabotage than older people. The way we do our approach is really important. How do we develop people in connections and meaning first? Then we look at how we're making a contribution to the company and the company that's making a contribution to the world. Now do we use AI to amplify that? Like that's the process.
Quick favor before we jump in. It always surprised me that a large percentage of people who listen to the show regularly haven't yet subscribed. If you're a commercial real estate operator, investor, or builder who values conversations like this around deals, capital, and technology, please take 2 seconds and hit subscribe. It's a simple, free way to support the show. My commitment to you is that my team and I will continue bringing you higher level operators, stronger conversations, and real execution level insights every single week. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Welcome back to the AI Edge podcast, where we talk with operators, founders, and investors who are actually building real businesses using systems, AI, and smart execution. Today's conversation is going to be a little different in a very good way. I got Greg Zlevor with me, president of Westwood International, founder of HopeMakers, and someone who has spent decades helping organizations develop leaders, strengthen culture, and create meaningful change inside real teams. We all appreciate Greg's work. It is deeply human, but not in a soft way. It's practical, it's measurable, it's built around helping people lead better, think better, and perform better in environments that are constantly changing. He's worked with global organizations, Fortune level companies, public institutions, and teams all over the world. And now he's also talking about what it looks like to infuse AI into leadership and development without losing human side of the work. So I'm looking forward to digging into leadership, resilience, emotional intelligence, and what actually changes behavior inside organizations and how leaders should be thinking right now as the world keeps accelerating. Greg, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Louis. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. For people who may not know you, what's your background and how did you get to where you are today?
Ooh, that's a big question. That's a big question. I mean, in the simplest answer is I started out in education, both high school and university. And while I was teaching at the high school and working at a university, I came across some experts, some thought leaders, and they took me under their wing. And I started working with them. And from that work, I got asked to do more corporate work because I was doing public speaking and working with them on public workshops. And from that, I grew a whole consulting practice, and it's just built and grown from there. So in its simplest form, that's how the process happened. Started out and grew up in Wisconsin, so I'm a big Packer fan. Came out to Boston for graduate school, and the rest is history.
Did you always know you wanted to work in leadership development?
No, I had no idea. And essentially what happened was when I was at Boston College, I worked at a conference, and the person, my mentor, was one of the keynote speakers. And at the end of his speech, he said, "Look, Greg is one of our best facilitators. If you want more of this work, go talk to him." Now, at that point, I was starting to do workshops on my own for schools and districts and some small companies and leaders. And I had 3 big companies come up to me after that and asked me to do work with them. And the contracts for those consulting opportunities were bigger than my whole annual check at the university. So I had to make a decision. I chose to give it a run, and here I am. So I almost was kind of pulled into leadership and leadership development. Now, that said, I'd always been a teacher. I'd always been a coach, and I'd always been working with groups. And the work I did with M. Scott Peck, and he was the author of The Road Less Traveled and some other big books. The work I was doing with him was community building and group dynamics. So even though I didn't know I wanted to go into quote unquote the formal title of leadership, it's been in my DNA, and it started right out of college, working with groups, working with teams, working with organizations. I just didn't have a title for it. And it took a bit of a turn and a twist when I started doing the corporate work. But in a lot of ways, it's always been in my DNA.
Was there a moment early on that shaped how you think about leadership?
There's so many of them. Let me take us to this moment, because ironically, I think even though I didn't plan it out, my training and my experience is leading up to and making this moment so important. And here's what I mean by that. So in today's world with AI coming in and with some of the geopolitical forces showing up, there's a big push for people to find a tribe, stick with it, get loud, be strong, have a position. Ironically, though, the people who are going to become more valuable, and this is my own bias, the people who are going to become more valuable are the ones who can bridge differences rather than create them. And people who are going to be really comfortable with, and I'd be curious to see if this is your experience as well. In talking to AI experts, a lot of them are saying they can't keep up, that they cannot predict, which means all of us are behind forever, forever. So what leaders are going to be strong enough emotionally to be comfortable being behind, yet strong enough to bring people together to say, okay, what are we going to do next? I think that combination of skill is going to be very rare and become more rare in the world, despite the fact that it's super valuable. So from a leadership perspective, that's kind of the crux of my work. How to bring in people, experts who are great with finance, great with AI, great with any other tools that a company needs, but building it around teams and coaching that allows people to develop their interpersonal skills while they're employing AI, finance, and other skills that are needed. Now, when I say other skills, I work with teams who are running clinical projects, who are in regulatory or in quality or in scientific or R&D, right? A lot of technical skills. And what's interesting is those technical people often have to now start to employ AI and have interpersonal skills to present, to show their results, to get influence, to get more funding, to get something out to the market. And so they need all of those skills. And so the crux, the hub, that point is the point that we design and custom design for organizations to help them with leadership development while they're getting real work done. So that's kind of our focus.
Amazing. What experiences most influenced your philosophy around people, culture, and transformation?
People, culture, and transformation. The people, culture, transformation piece. If I look at the human math, here's the basic math that keeps showing up year after year, almost generation after generation, maybe even century after century, is that the people who are able to control their emotions, control their reactions, control their response to a crisis, stay calm and stay clear, tend to engage more fully with actually what's going on, which allows them to have better options for what the next step is, and to always have hope and a belief that they're going to make it through the next step. Now, people who can also bring other people along on that journey are the ultimate leaders, right? So in terms of people, culture, and transformation, the big transformation is helping people get to a point where they have that belief and have that experience, and even have made it a habit. People can come together and do that from a candid perspective, allow a group of people or a collective to do that, which really provides massive transformation, and not only transformation, but meaning for people. And I think one of the big challenges that's coming up now is in the past, I'm just talking 20 or 30 years ago, a good brand name, a good paycheck, and a good title was enough to keep somebody. Now it's not enough. Now people are coming in the workforce, expect development, expect to improve their own lives, expect to be able to have balance. And in a lot of ways, work is starting to replace and is starting to be the place where they come and find connection and meaning. Like I had a young person I was coaching, and they on the call said, I just quit my job. I'm like, you did? You just quit your job? I'm like, yeah, quit. I was like, whoa. I was like, why'd you quit? Like the company doesn't have enough purpose. I couldn't see myself doing this job and making a contribution to the world. And so I quit, just didn't have it for me. I was like, wow, that's gutsy. Like, okay. I said, so where's your new job? They said, I don't have one yet. I'm like, you don't have one yet? Right now, in my generation, I would have never have done that.
Never.
Never. But this generation that's coming up, they need to have meaning and purpose as well. And if they're doing something where the company is outright not having meaning and purpose or degrading the environment, involved in, say, war or conflict, or taking advantage of people, or manipulating nature, or, a whole slew of things, they're not interested. And so companies now have to not only have a good paycheck, good title, but they have to be developing their people. They have to find ways to connect those people to meaning and purpose, which means they have to create clear lines of sight to the customer or to the client or to the patient, and show those people how their actions are making a difference in those people's lives. And in that process, making sure that the environment is not being degraded, that freedom, that democracy, that, whatever other values they have are being upheld. So it's very complex for leaders these days. And you need a lot of training and practice and coaching. You can't just know the answer, have a paycheck, and promote someone. So the world is rapidly changing. Now you add AI into that. I read today that almost a third of the people asked to use AI are sabotaging the AI efforts, and that young people are doing more sabotage than older people, just from an anti-AI sentiment, which then means like the way we do our approach is really important, i.e., how do we develop people in connections and meaning first? Then we look at how we're making a contribution to the company and the company that's making a contribution to the world. And now since you have these connections and relationships and you see we care about you, how now do we use AI to amplify that? Like that's the process. And I've been in companies where the leaders or executive team will come and just say, use more AI, without the connection, without the clear line of sight, without the network that's needed or the clarity that's needed to do it well. And it's a real problem. So ironically, when you talk about people, transformation, and culture, it's still at this point comes down to people, transformation, and culture, and doing it well so that AI can be infused in a way that amplifies something good. Because if it starts to amplify a mess, you've got a real mess. And that's what's happening in a lot of ways. Like I've been working with some companies and the people know they have to do more AI. Their kids are teaching them on the weekends. They're using their own personal devices to do AI work that the company hasn't sanctioned yet because they're only on, say, Microsoft or Copilot or something else. And their kids don't know Copilot. So they're going to teach them Chat GPT or they're going to teach them Gemini. So they're taking all their stuff in the weekends, doing that, and then cutting and pasting and bringing it back to Copilot in the week. That's a mess. And so how do we now start to connect with our people so they feel taken care of and listened to, and then bring in AI to help them do a better job and to do more work for us moving into the future? The other thing that's fascinating is from a marketing perspective, like the AI slop and the AI burnout is legit. Like people are really into AI, and some of them who I'm talking to are getting burned out. Their brain just can't keep up with it. So now how do people learn a rhythm where they can push and then relax, push and relax, stress and then recover, stress and then recover? That's a whole nother habit and lesson that not only an individual needs to learn, but an organization or a collective needs to learn. I was with a group last week and we spent, part of our time looking at a big time project. I mean, the project they have, without divulging anything, the project they have, every day it's delayed, it costs $1 million. That's a big price tag. So they need to be working really hard. And they've found some bottlenecks, some difficulties that have delayed projects 2-3 days. It's significant, right? So now how do they stay connected and candid with each other under the pressure of time and now use AI to do a better job? That's not so easy. So the whole week, here's what we did. We worked on those pieces, but in the morning, we did personal development. We did emotional intelligence. We did some recovery techniques. And then we practiced it during the day as they worked on it. There's a balance, there's a rhythm. So when they left the week, they not only have AI tools now they can work with and a new way of talking to their sponsors and their executive leaders to bring things forward, but they also begin to have the skills and the tools to take a break and recover, take a break and recover. And finding people and specialists who have all of the ability to weave that together in an experience so people can walk out with simple things that they can use and practice, and teams can walk out better and also deliver a strategic project to a company. That's where we work. And unfortunately, as I'm finding, there are not many people or teams that can do that. They can bring that kind of resource to an organization. And so it's kind of funny now in this world of AI that the interpersonal stuff has become more and more important.
The human
So
part
that's what we're working on.
the human part is so important. People tend to miss that part or tend to forget about that part. When you look back, Greg, over your arc of your career, what do you think has stayed true the entire time?
Well, what stayed true is people never argue with their own data, right? So, in as much as they like to say otherwise, executives look for data that confirms what they want to do emotionally. And that's been pretty consistent over time. And so that's one thing. Two, candidness, genuineness, authenticity still is important in the world of AI, even more important. Like, what can we trust? So as an example, I looking at some research and just talking to connections and different friends in my network, people will say things to me that sound way off. Like I'll tilt my head, I'm like, you believe that? But before I question them, I say, where'd you get this information from? Why listen to this podcast? I'm like, who's the podcast? It's like one individual out in Timbuktu who talks every day and reads a couple articles and makes an opinion and says, here's what's going on. I'm like, what happened to the integrity of news and standards?
I agree.
So people are getting their news from sources they trust,
Yeah.
even though the source is not as trustworthy, just because they emotionally feel more connected. It's remarkable to me. And so that's been true all along.
I've always had a problem with YouTube and the children being
Mm,
able to watch just tons and tons of YouTube, thinking that that is reality or that is the authority, right? Like, I mean, there is no trust there because, like you said, there's no standard, right? Anybody can make a YouTube video or anything. And, where is well, exactly what you just said? Where is that, standard? Where is that authority? Where is that, it's just not there anymore.
Now, and look, we're human beings. We need standards. We need push. We need nudges. We don't do things on our own. As a species, we're trained by our brain to do things that are convenient, that are comfortable, that are safe, that are easy, and to trust things that make us feel good, not necessarily things that are right or that are true or that take effort. And if we don't accept that those kinds of disciplines and standards and limits help us, things unravel pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your company.
Sure.
Let's talk about Westwood International. What do you actually do, and what problem are you solving for that organization?
Yeah. So the problem we're solving is that nexus or that hub or that friction point in organizations right now between people, strategic projects, and AI. We're solving that friction point for them. And we're creating experiences now where people can learn the skills they need while connecting with people they need to connect with and developing the conversations and the process and trust so they can infuse AI to make things better. Right. That's the problem we solve.
Amazing.
And how we do it is we customize programs, leadership development experience and programs immersions for clients, for companies. And the best ones are ones where we can find and identify key people on the senior leadership team or the executive team or whatever layer that is that can come and be models, that can come share a strategic project, give that group a chance to practice on doing real work while building real skills, and then following and having third party observers say, yeah, you're getting better or worse. And here's what you can do to get even better. Right. So there's specific measurement and observation that can show the improvement. That's specifically what we're doing for companies and groups. And then on the HopeMaker side, the way HopeMakers came about, we had a company come to us and say, look, can you put together a program that will train our 50,000 people to bring hope to the world while we deliver our products? And so I put together a team of 75 to 100 thought leaders, entertainers, et cetera, from around the world. Someone who ran a successful presidential campaign, someone who is the founder of social capitalism, like high-end thought leaders and trainers, coaches, pulled them together. We put together a 6-year plan where this company could bring hope to the whole world. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So 2 years to train the 50,000, then 2 years to train the vendors and suppliers so they could have a whole ecosystem of hope. And then I made this arrangement with the company and all the thought leaders and IP that we took all of it. We got paid for phase 1 and 2, but then we took everything and we packaged it. And then we started training college students so they could bring hope to the whole world. So we had a 6-year plan to bring hope to the whole world, and came down to me and Accenture. In the end, the company said, you made it this far because what you did was so inspiring. You're the only one that thought about the whole world. And they said, so thank you for that. And it's too big for us. We can't handle it. We want to focus on our 50,000. So we're going to give this to Accenture, not you. So then I go back to the group and I apologize to the group. I'm like, gang, we worked hard on this. Like we did. It was great. Great team, great proposal, everything. I said, but we didn't get it. It's the way it goes sometimes. We didn't get it. And lo and behold, half the group said, don't care. Let's keep working on it. And so now for the last 3 or 4 years, we've met twice a year just to come together to share, to help a nonprofit or two, share ideas on how we can bring more hope to the world and develop our skills. Yeah, it's been incredible. It's been a wonderful journey. And so, part of the work now is bringing more of the HopeMaker spirit into the work at Westwood, but Westwood continues to do the leadership development experiences as well. So that's kind of the business and where I'm at, where I'm having a lot of fun right now.
Excellent. Who's the ideal client for Westwood?
There's a couple different ideal clients. I mean, we've tended to work with large companies, right? But just recently we had some local like dental offices and a building company, et cetera, and some construction companies who have come and asked us for help. So what we talk about and the way we teach works in every organization. But the ideal would be a large global company who needs to work cross functions, cross silos, or two, investors who want to start to create more impact experiences and events to have more of an influence in the world from a positive perspective. So recently I've been approached by different people in the entertainment business to do key events around the Super Bowl or around the Olympics or around concerts to begin to bring the HopeMaker spirit into those experiences and then build more of a connection and network and an experience for people versus just listening and consuming. And so people who want to invest in those types of experiences and want to be a part of HopeMakers or companies that are looking for leadership development, those are our ideal clients.
What are organizations usually struggling with when they come to you?
Yeah, so many different things, but essentially some of the practical things are they don't have a pipeline of leaders that they need to promote. So the succession planning is short. Two, they're having a lot of turnover. Three, they have a big project and it's stuck. So I had a vehicle company, let's call it a vehicle company. They needed to create a common platform for developing trucks. They had a group of engineers that had been working on it for 6 to 8 months. They were making no progress. And so they brought me in to help them, for me to work with the technical team and then to work with the technical team making presentations to the executive team so they can make some decisions and move forward. That was a problem they need to solve. And what's great is the way we teach is developing interpersonal skills, developing the tools, and then working on the presentations. And so we were able to help them get through that process pretty quickly because the technical people were giving presentations that were all wrong. It wasn't like they didn't have the answer, they didn't have the connection. And so after several months and working with them and showing them and both sides, really coaching both sides, they were able to make the decisions and move forward pretty quickly and get unstuck.
Amazing.
So there are multiple problems that get solved with the process. It just depends on which one people are feeling at the moment. Yeah.
Greg, what makes your approach different from more traditional leadership training or corporate coaching?
Yeah, there's a few things. One, there's a lot of companies who are good, who are out in the world, but they have a particular tool, a particular method that they push people through, right? We don't have a particular method or tool that we have to push people through or a book that we need to sell. And I also don't have people sitting on the bench that I need to put on a project even if they don't have the experience. Like I worked at a big firm and when a company came in for consulting or training or whatever, we said, okay, who doesn't have work? Put them on the project. Right now, those project teams had never worked together before, and a lot of them didn't have experience in the industry that they were going to work in, even though the firm pushes experience. Oh, we've experienced with this and this and this, but the people they pushed there didn't. So it's almost like a bait and switch. Well, our teams have worked together on multiple pieces, and we've worked in multiple industries, and people go where they have the experience. Two, they're talented enough when if something happens, they can switch and pivot. Three, they're good enough that they both coach and train and facilitate. And a lot of our work has to do with facilitating conversations, facilitating learning, facilitating new steps, which requires a high level of talent to be in the moment versus trying to push a particular method or concept or tool. So how are we different? That's how we're different.
Amazing. Greg, you talk a lot about customized, human centered programming. What does that really mean in practice?
All right. So in practice, here's an example. Turns out that if you want to change a behavior, you're best to pick one behavior at a time. If you pick one behavior and you stay in a particular process with it, you have an 83% success rate of changing that behavior after 60 to 75 days. As the research. Problem is, people pick two or three behaviors
Yeah.
and their chance of being successful drops down to 17%. Now, how do we make that practical? And how do people have a human-centered approach? Well, we are starting to bring in AI more often, AI and AI tools and automation. But here's an example. If someone's in our program, they pick the people they trust to give them feedback and be on their leadership team. So they have agency. Second, the people on their feedback team can get messages to give this person feedback, have those messages be collated and be put in a report for their coach. So their coach can give them almost continuous 360 feedback with very little effort from other people, right? Now, you start to combine those kind of habits with nudges through text or other things that are created by the person getting the nudge. They continue to have agency. They continue to be able to build the environment that they need in order for them to be successful. By the time we finish the project, they've developed one or two new habits that are significant and observable that they've had a voice in and they've gotten human coaching from. So it's a combination. That's why we say AI infused is using AI, but with people at the center and people having agency and choice. And that's critical.
Amazing. Walk me through how the business actually runs day to day.
I don't know if there is a day to day here. You don't, I almost have to take a particular role, but there's a few things that go on, right? One, there's teams out running programs and projects. There are people who are working on additional tools, AI, online, automations, etc., to help bring more value to clients. And then there are conversations with clients about what they need, what they want, building those relationships. And then if we had the HopeMakers piece, we're running HopeMakers events and experience where people can come together, have candid conversations, help a nonprofit, because part of what we do at the HopeMakers events is we'll have a nonprofit or two come in and we'll help them solve a problem. So we're always giving back, running those types of events. Those are the types of experiences or activities we're often involved in from a Westwood / HopeMakers perspective.
How do you diagnose what the client actually needs?
Well, a lot of times 360 is enough to do that, especially if we're dealing with individuals. If we're working on a company or an organizational level, sometimes it'll be identifying not so much the skills that are needed at this point for them to reach the goals they want to reach, and then designing and bringing in the key leaders and the key experiences that are going to help them move forward, helping them design customer, patient, client interactions, helping them do innovation or creative practices to find new places where, and essentially it's in a simple way, you want to find in the marketplace what's important, but what's being performed very poorly. And so if you can begin to find that, it's almost like what you're doing with AI right now. You know how important it is, but it's being performed very poorly. So now how do we create solutions that are as easy and as simple as possible to use and follow for new clients, right? That's a big value add. So doing those things for clients and for our customers is really important. And then helping people do that over and over again so they can repeat it. It's scalable.
How do you maintain quality when the work is so human and so customized?
Yeah, that's tricky, right? Because if I have a team of, say, 3 or 4 coaches out with a particular project, each coach is unique, right? So, the quality is the quality of the person coming in. That's really important. Having regular touch points during the process is critical. And then obviously follow up to make sure we've hit the marks that we said we would hit, and having 3 third-party observations and or ways of measuring it, NPS scores, etc. That is also very helpful because then it can show that we're actually delivering what we're expected to deliver and beyond.
When you're working with large organizations, Greg, what's harder, designing the right solution or getting real behavioral change to actually stick?
Well, it's difficult to have real behavioral change unless you've designed it well. So the design is the first piece, but second is being able to shift your design while you're in the midst of the experience so that it meets the need of the participants. That is the second part. And then if you can do that, you have great design up front and you can shift while you're in it, you'll end up with the results you expect.
This is the AI Edge podcast. So we talk a little bit AI here. Curious, how are you currently thinking about AI or automation inside of your business today?
Yeah. So in part, here's where we're going with the AI piece. I'm starting to use more AI and automation and or voice activated tools to help people get and receive feedback and also to give feedback. Also using AI to help people with their strategic projects and depending on what the client need is and what the tools that are sanctioned and can be used, teaching people how to use those tools better to get better results with AI. Those are 2 of the bigger things. And then third, we're developing assessments where people can not only learn about themselves, but learn about other people on their team and better interact with them, present with them, communicate with them, resolve conflict with them based on personality styles and preferences. So those are several of the ways we're starting to use AI in our programs and in our work.
Amazing. You describe parts of your work as human-centered and AI-infused. What does that actually look like today?
Well, I think it's a lot of what we've already discussed.
Yeah.
Leading with people, leading with conversation, leading with connection and networking, and then bringing in AI, like the tools I've just described, to help make those changes better and or to help a team or a collective do work better, faster, deeper, so they can deliver more value to the customer.
Where do you think AI can improve leadership development without replacing the human element?
I think one, AI can be a great thinking partner, but it's interesting. And again, some research I've seen recently that AI agrees 50% more than people do, right? And which means is if I use AI as a thinking partner and it agrees with me 50% more, here's one of the implications. I can come to AI and say, look, I'm having difficulty with so and so. We're in a conflict. I think I'm right. What's AI going to say? You are right, which means there's a significant increase in people not having difficult conversations. So there's an upside. I have someone I can talk to now all the time. The downside is this person's always agreeing with me. This AI is always agreeing with me, and I'm doing less of the work because of it. So I think we have to be careful with where we use AI and how we use it, though it does help significantly in some areas, like the ones I've suggested already.
What are you seeing that really excites you?
When I'm seeing a lot of people who really care, care about each other, care about their work, care about their efforts, care about the planet. I also think this generation that's coming up is one of the most inclusive generations we've ever had. And I'm really excited to see what they can do and create. Despite what we see in the news on some of the outliers, I do believe that that is a very important trend. And they're very talented. I did say that there's more mental health challenges, but there's also a lot of talent too. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited to see how they can overcome their shortcomings to have more of a difference in the world.
Where do you see AI that concerns you?
Well, what I've already mentioned, it agrees.
It does. We programmed our AI to not agree with us all the time, and
Right.
you need to do that.
Yeah, you need to do
The
that.
audience needs to do that.
Exactly. You need to do that. Two, the fact that it can make stuff up.
Mm,
And trust me, a lot of the workforce is not going to be astute enough or want to put the effort in to audit it to catch those times that it makes something up. That's going to be a real challenge, right? Finding those mistakes.
what part of the leadership development should never be handed to AI?
Well, I think right now the auditing should never be handed to AI. Maybe a first or second level auditing, but not the final, right? So that'll be one place. I think two, the social connection and social networking piece. Seeing a lot of places where they're trying to replace that with robots and with AI. I think that's a problem and a difficulty. I think the other danger with AI right now is there's a lot of power being concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. And from a societal perspective, that's very dangerous because once people get power, they don't want to give it up. And planetarily speaking, that's very dangerous. So those are some of my concerns. Yeah.
Yeah. Greg, do you think most organizations are approaching AI from a place of strategy or fear right now?
I think they're mostly doing fear under the guise of strategy. There's very few that are really strategic with it. Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake leaders are making right now as they try to integrate AI into their teams and culture?
Well, it's what we talked about earlier, right? Not doing the people stuff first,
Right.
not having clarity and mission, vision, and values, and not being really in tune with their customer, patient, or client so that they know what they want to amplify. I think those are some of the biggest mistakes.
Greg, what do you think leadership means today that it did not mean 10 to 15 years ago?
Here's what I think it means is change now. I think bringing AI in is a whole new level. I think two, leaders and organizations having to deal with more of the human side of the equation, right? The pressure to or the expectation to help humans have more meaning, have more presence, have more connection. That was never a demand 30 years ago in a business. People are starting to demand more and more of that. So I think there's more pressure to take care of people in deeper and more complex ways and bring in AI at the same time. And I think that nexus point is really difficult.
Fantastic. Greg, for people who want to find you and connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, where's the best place to find you online?
Yeah. So the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So I'm the only Greg Zlevor on the planet. So if you find that name on LinkedIn, you found me. And then the other places, if they're interested in HopeMakers and joining the community to have a global impact, HopeMakersCollective.com is another great place to find me. And And of course, our company website, westwoodintl.com.
Beautiful. We'll drop those into the show links. I appreciate that, Greg. Greg, that was a great conversation. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective on leadership, development, and what it really takes in order to help people and organizations grow in a meaningful way. To everyone listening, if you got value from this, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of the AI Edge podcast. Thank you, Greg. We appreciate it.
Louis, thank you so much. Appreciate it.